Welcome to ridiculous shit going on around the world right now that for some reason you just haven't heard about. Part 9. Scientists just discovered 24 super habitable planets with conditions that are better suited for life than Earth. They are all slightly older than Earth, a little larger, slightly warmer, and possibly wetter. They also orbit better stars that have longer lifespans than our very own sun. Also, a 100 million year old meteorite crater was just discovered while drilling for gold in Australia. The crater is over 3 miles in diameter and it is one of the world's largest meteorite craters ever. And the crater is estimated to be around 100 million years old. Also, the Hubble telescope just spotted a huge star explosion in a distant galaxy. Hubble captured a supernova exploding in a galaxy that is 70 million light years away, which means that this explosion happened 70 million years ago, which I find absolutely insane. Welcome to ridiculous shit going on around the world right now that for some reason you just haven't heard about. Part 8. Astronauts that are aboard the International Space Station woke up a couple days ago and found out that there was an air leak in the space station. And the scariest part is that the leak was growing in size and they needed to find the source of it before it was too late. Thankfully, they were able to find the source and they patched it up, but that's terrifying to even think about. Scientists found 100 million year old microbes at the bottom of the ocean and just brought them back to life. These microbes that were alive before dinosaurs even went extinct were discovered 10 years ago, but now in 2020 they came back to life. I don't think 2020 is the year to be bringing anything back to life. Back in 2014, scientists discovered a signal coming from outer space, and just recently it became active again. These signals found in outer space are called fast radio bursts. This signal was dormant since 2014, but of course in 2020 it became active again. And in case you didn't know, Trump has the coronavirus. Welcome to ridiculous shit going on around the world right now that for some reason you just haven't heard about. Part 7. Scientists just opened a cave that was sealed away for over 5 million years. The air inside was completely toxic due to harmful gases. But scientists still found 33 new creatures in the cave that have never been found anywhere else on the planet. Scientists also just discovered microorganisms that eat viruses at the bottom of the ocean. They are not like any other microorganisms and maybe they can help us get rid of the coronavirus. A brain-eating amoeba has just been found in Texas. 8 Texas cities have been told to boil all water before use, because if contaminated water gets in your body in any way, even in your ears or up your nose, you could possibly die. There was also going to be a super rare blue moon on Halloween night this year. Many believe that this could be a sign that something bad is going to happen. And they might be right, because just a month after the blue moon, there is going to be a blood moon. Welcome to ridiculous shit going on around the world right now that for some reason you just haven't heard about. Part 6. A frozen dragon was just discovered in Canada. A new species of flying creature that was longer than 30 feet was discovered frozen in Canadian ice. Scientists are calling it the frozen dragon of the north, and it was one of the largest flying animals in our planet's history. A Nazi coin from 2039 was discovered in a construction site in Mexico. On the front of the coin it has a swastika, which I blurred out for obvious reasons, but on the bottom it shows the year 2039, which means that this coin is from the future and was dropped by a time traveler, or this coin could be from a parallel universe. And on the top of the coin it says Nueva Almania, which translates to New Germany. Also, Japan just built a 60-foot robot that weighs over 24 tons. The robot can even walk, kneel, move individual fingers, and even talk. Also, Amazon is selling flying security cameras. If the drone detects movement in any other room in your house, it will fly. Go check it out and record. Welcome to ridiculous shit going on around the world right now that for some reason you just haven't heard about. Part 5. On September 14th in New Jersey, this aircraft that looks like an alien UFO was seen hovering over the city. People were stopping in the middle of the highway just to capture videos of it. Some are saying it's just a blimp, but knowing 2020, who knows? Turns out September 14th was even more crazy as 2 asteroids flew right past Earth on that same day. They were about 1/3 of the distance to the moon, which by space standards was pretty close. Also, Batman is delivering hot meals to homeless people in Santiago, Chile every night. The man cooks around 100 food rations a day and he pays for all of it. He then dresses as Batman and delivers the dinners to homeless people throughout the city of Santiago. Also, scientists just uncovered the oldest sperm sample ever found. The sperm was preserved in amber and it dates back to the Cretaceous period, which was about 100 million years ago. Welcome to ridiculous shit going on around the world right now that for some reason you just haven't heard about. Part 4. We all remember the clowns from 2016 that were spotted everywhere, right? Well, now in 2020 they are back and even creepier than before. There are tons of reports of them chasing people with axes and other weapons. And a lot of them are also offering children money and candy to come into the woods with them. We all know about the Kraken that's basically a ginormous squid, right? Well, something just like it has just been discovered. This huge thing was thought to be a small island or a large rock down near Antarctica. But scientists saw it move on Google Maps and confirmed it's a giant squid that's over 300 feet long. But the craziness does not stop there. Japan has just made a real-life transformer. This real-life transformer can easily switch between a working car and a giant humanoid robot. And to make things even cooler, it can even walk, talk, and grab things with its huge hands. Welcome to ridiculous shit going on around the world right now that for some reason you just haven't heard about. Part 3. This 16-year-old soccer player in Russia got struck by lightning and miraculously survived. A surveillance camera caught the moment that the soccer player got struck by lightning as he was warming up with his team. Ivan was rushed to the hospital where he was placed in a medically induced coma. And just 3 weeks later he made a full recovery and is back to playing soccer. Also, people are purposely becoming disabled by choice and calling themselves transabled. Body integrity identity disorder is a rare psychological condition that makes healthy individuals feel like they're supposed to be disabled. Some people that suffer from this injure or disable themselves on purpose, like this man right here. This is Alex Mensar, and he willingly cut off both of his legs and an arm. Also, doctors just pulled a 4-foot snake out of a woman's throat after it slithered in there as she slept. She woke up feeling very unwell and rushed to the hospital. The doctors then pulled out a 4-foot snake out of her mouth that was still alive. Welcome to ridiculous shit going on around the world right now that for some reason you just haven't heard about. Part 2. Scientists just captured videos of sharks living in active volcanoes. The scientists dropped a camera into the main crater of the Kavachi volcano located in the Solomon Islands and found sharks living in there. And apparently the sharks can use their special sensory abilities to detect when the volcanoes are going to erupt. But wait, the craziness is just getting started. Japan's first flying car just successfully flew in a test flight with a passenger on board. The car is named SD03 and it is completely electric and will be available to the public in 2023. These things would get rid of the hassle of airports, traffic jams, and car accidents, and the SD03 would eventually fly itself as well. Also, magician and stuntman David Blaine just successfully flew over the Arizona desert holding on to 50 balloons. He ended up floating to almost 25,000 feet in the sky, which is almost as high as airplanes fly, and he was in the sky for over an hour. Welcome to ridiculous shit going on around the world right now that for some reason you just haven't heard about. Just 2 days ago, a man in a real jetpack was flying 3,000 feet over the Los Angeles International Airport. The man was flying only 300 feet away from the planes as they landed. Who does this guy think he is, the real life Iron Man? Anyways, the FBI are investigating and no one has come forward to take credit for the stunt. But wait, we have other things flying around too, as this witch was seen flying around San Diego. The fact that we have witches flying around and no one is talking about this, or freaking out, says a lot about our current situation in the world right now. This 50,000-year-old lake that was formed when a meteorite slammed into Earth just turned pink and no one knows why. In less than a month, the Lonar Lake in India went from this green color to this pink color. Since the lake was formed by a meteor crash and the color changed so quickly, scientists are shocked and have no idea what's going on. 2020 seriously needs to calm down. This garbage man noticed an elderly woman didn't take her trash off for over 2 weeks and he ended up saving her life. Garbage man Jake Bland was doing his job and making rounds in the neighborhood when he noticed one of the residents hadn't put out any trash for more than 2 weeks. He could have just ignored it, but he decided to figure out what was going on, as 2 weeks of no trash was a troubling sign. He had his company give the woman a call, and it turned out that the woman who lived there was 92 years old, and she had no trash because sadly she had no food to eat. Because of the coronavirus pandemic, elderly people are more likely to die to the virus, which makes grocery shopping a huge life risk. She also did not have any friends or family that could get the groceries for her. She had been living off of old food for weeks, so Jake Bland and the garbage company he worked for decided to step in and lend a hand. Jake and his team created a list of essential food items, went out and got the groceries, and hand-delivered them to the elderly woman. And they also paid for all of it. So all thanks to this caring garbage man, the elderly woman now has fresh groceries to eat. Today we're going to talk about a 9-year-old boy that thought a man was living in his walls. And it only gets worse when he sees a pair of eyes in his air vent. One night in May 1981, we ordered Chinese food. I waited until everyone was asleep and crept downstairs to eat leftover sweet and sour pork. It took forever, but I finally stepped into the totally dark den and let down my guard when all of a sudden I heard a fork click on the counter. I froze. The microwave clock light showed the outline of a man sitting at our kitchen counter. But then a few months later, in August, I saw something in the air conditioning vent above my bed. I was in my room reading when I looked up. There is an AC vent right over my bed, and behind the vent was a pair of eyes that were watching me. And they concluded he had been living in our walls and our vents for at least 6 months. This man donated half of his liver to a complete stranger that had only 2 months to live and ended up marrying her. And this true story will shock you. This is Christopher Dempsey, and one day he overheard a coworker he barely knew talking about a cousin that had stage 4 liver disease. She needed a liver transplant, but there was 119,000 people on the transplant list before her. And unless she found a donor, she only had 2 months left to live. Christopher got himself tested to see if he was a match, and when he figured out he was, he agreed to donate half of his liver. The woman whose life he saved was named Heather Kruger, and they did not meet until after the surgery. But when they did meet, they instantly fell in love and started dating after the operation, and 2 years after saving her life, Christopher got married to a woman he never would have met if he didn't agree to give up half of his liver to a complete stranger. This homeless man returned a $4,000 wedding ring back to its owner, and he got a house in return. And this true story will restore your faith in humanity. Billy Ray Harris was begging for money in Kansas City when he got a huge stroke of good luck. A young woman named Sarah Darling meant to drop a few coins into his cup, but her wedding ring slipped off and she didn't notice. His first instinct was to go sell it, but when his nearby jewelry shop told him it was worth $4,000, he felt super guilty and couldn't bring himself to sell it. Instead, he just waited until he saw Sarah Darling again and asked her if she lost her ring. Sarah and her husband wanted to repay him, so they set up a GoFundMe for him. They expected to raise only a few $100s for Harris, but Harris's story went absolutely viral, and he got a lot more than he could have expected. When it was all over, Sarah Darling raised over $185,000 for Billy Ray Harris, and he was able to buy a car and a home and get his life back on track. This 3-year-old boy remembered his past life, and his story and all the proof will blow your mind. Back in the 1980s, a boy named Chanao Chamaluwang was born with a small birthmark at the back of his head and a larger one on his forehead. And when he was 3 years old, he talked about a previous life in which he was named Bawakai. And he was a teacher, and as he rode his bicycle to school, he was shot in the back of the head and died. Chanao asked his grandmother to take him to his family from his previous life. And when she did, he led her to a house that a man named Bawakai used to live in with his family. Chanao identified and knew the names of Bawakai's parents, wife, and 2 daughters who were still living there. And the parents of Bawakai confirmed that their son had died from a gunshot wound as he was riding his bicycle to work 5 years before Chanao was born. And the craziest part is that the entrance of the bullet was on the back of his head and the exit wound was on his forehead. And all that matched Chanao's birthmarks perfectly. A group of dolphins saved a suicidal girl from taking her own life, and the way they did it was so wholesome. A team of field biologists were studying a group of dolphins when all of a sudden one of them broke away from a feeding circle and rushed into deeper waters. The other dolphins soon followed, eventually forming a circle around a dark object. Intrigued by the weird behavior of the animals, the team followed the dolphins to what they discovered was a drowning girl. They managed to pull the girl out of the water and make it to the shore in time. Thankfully, the girl ended up making a full recovery. Although she was found with a suicide note on her, if the dolphins hadn't noticed her when they did, she wouldn't have made it out alive. This 10-year-old girl saved over 100 people from being killed by a tsunami because of something she learned in school, and her story will surprise you. In 2004, an earthquake with a 9.3 magnitude caused one of the most deadly tsunamis to ever hit the Asian coast. Tilly Smith was a middle schooler that was vacationing in Thailand with her family just moments before the chaos of Mother Nature hit. But luckily, she had been paying attention in class to a lecture just a couple weeks before about tsunamis. She was able to recognize the early signs of a tsunami from her geography class and was able to convince her family and 100 other tourists to retreat to safety. Her quick thinking saved over 100 people from being added to the 2 million souls that were lost due to the tsunami. This 15-year-old boy stopped a suicide bomber from killing an entire school of children, and the way he did it is so heroic. Back in 2015, Aitazaz Hassan was walking to his school in Pakistan like any other day, when the fearless 9th grader noticed a man that seemed out of place. The man was a suicide bomber with a vest full of live explosives. The suspicious 15-year-old took no chances and tackled the man in front of his school's gates. He bravely gave the ultimate sacrifice as the bomber detonated his jacket during the brawl. The teen single-handedly saved the lives of an entire school of children by being a selfless man of action. And he might also receive the Army's highest honor award that is given to those who have sacrificed their lives for their country. Scientists have just made a 3,000-year-old mummy speak. And just wait until you hear what it sounds like.
Scientists were able to mimic Nessie Amun's voice by recreating his mouth and vocal cords with a 3D printer. It allowed them to produce a single sound.